Today I'm going to talk about a very interesting topic actually, which is AI-driven hypermedia as the engine of application state. This is my title today, and you can see it's very short. So I'm going to divide it into two parts. The first one is, of course, AI-driven, and second one is HATEOAS. It's an acronym. I love to call it HATEOAS, but of course it's you can call it whatever you want, maybe HATEOAS, but it's too long. So for the next couple of minutes, I'm going to call it as HATEOAS because I love that. So if I divide this title, you will see it has two parts in it, and hypermedia as the engine of application state will be my focus for today. It, it is very simple. It sounds too technical, but I would say it's very simple. It simply states that every application, if it's based on API or web-based application, should have hypermedia so that it can help users to navigate between different web pages, or if they are using an API, it can basically help them navigating between different endpoints available in a particular API. I would say the interesting part about hypermedia engine is that it exists between all of us. I think ever since before we got modern front-end JavaScript frameworks, but no one has really talked about it on the internet, and there are not enough resources available if I want to go deeper into it and see what it is and how I can implement it into my API or web application and stuff like that. I think that's the main reason today I picked this topic to present in front of you all. Talking about the first part of this title, AI driven, further into this presentation, you will see this hate OS is very static thing. So I'm going to implement a very quick AI driven part in it so that we can overcome all the blockers we got today in order to implement our hypermedias and make them more dynamic, and it can even adopt to the according to the user's behavior, what endpoints a particular user is using more and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's a good time to go further into the presentation. About me, my name is Pratham. I'm based in India. I came here to present today. I have been working as a developer relations manager at APIlayer. Make sure to check my company apilayer.com because it will help me getting my promotion faster. And after this talk, I would say if you have any ideas, any thoughts, or if my demo ignites any thought in your mind, you can feel free to reach me out on my email ID or my Twitter account. By the way, I've been very active on Twitter. I've been posting like since 2020. I got an audience of over 435,000 developers. So I'm very active there. If you ever want to catch me up, you can definitely reach me out there. I would say ever since I started working professionally, I have been around APIs. Before API layer, I was at Rapid API. So you can say that I love advocating for API developers, API providers, and anyone in the world who has been using APIs. So yes, I think that's why I'm going to talk about hypermedia as the engine of application state today. But I think before jumping right into it and see what it is, or maybe jumping into the demonstration thing, I'm going to basically brush up on our skills and see what RESTful architectures constraint we know today. Of course, this is first came up by Roy Fielding, I think, when he was working on his dissertation for RESTful architecture, and he came up with 6 constraints, which I listed here. The first one is, of course, client server, which says a separation of concerns, which means that client and server evolve separately. In case server got some errors, it should not affect client side, or vice versa. That's why client and server should evolve separately. The second one we got here as the RESTful constraint, it's stateless. That basically states each request that is coming from the client side should have all the information for server so that server can fulfill the request. You cannot assume that server will guess or server will have some predefined knowledge about your request. You have to pass each and every information in order to get your request fulfilled. Talking about the third one is very interesting. I would say cacheable because it helps us saving some bandwidth. It says that whenever server passes some response, it should mention explicitly whether that response is cacheable or not. That's very simple. The fourth one is uniform interface. And this is the key constraint of REST API, I would say, because it differentiates between RESTful design to some other architectural designs of APIs. And it is further divided into four parts. The first one is, of course, identification of resources through URIs, which means I would say that your URI should be plural. It should be like intuitive. Anyone can guess what sort of resources a client will get by guessing it on the URI. The second one is, of course, manipulation of resources through representations, which means that there are certain HTTP methods we know today. So if you want to do anything, for example, if you want to retrieve any information, delete any information on the server or update it, you can easily do that using HTTP methods predefined. The third one we have over here is self-descriptive messages, which makes our lives easier as a developers, because we are always going to get response in JSON or XML format, which are very intuitive and helpful. And the fourth one is the key for our today's topic, which is hypermedia as the engine of application state. I'm going to, of course, discuss about it further into the slides, but I think this part most of the API provider misses today, and that's why they end up building REST like API, not purely REST. So their APIs are pragmatic REST, I would say, not purely REST. But yeah, moving forward, we got fifth one as well, layered system, which means that client doesn't really know whether their request is directly fulfilling by server or there are multiple proxies, maybe load balancers in between. So there are layered system in case something is getting some error, so anyone can basically fix that using removing proxy or resolving the error on demand and stuff like that. The sixth one is, of course, code on demand, which is optional. So if you don't implement that in your REST API, that doesn't really mean that you will not be building a REST API, because it's an optional constraint, which simply states that in case you need a executable code from server will be capable of delivering that on the client side, so that you can run your functions and stuff like that on the client side, basically. So that's all about REST API, I would say, because these information we have today, that what makes a particular API a REST API or what is RESTful architecture. But again, if I emphasizing on hypermedia as the engine of application state, you will see most of API provider misses these technologies in today's world in our APIs. So let's move forward and see what exactly it is and what it looks like. You see, I attached a code snippet here. If you go down in code snippets, you will see there is a link object. I'm sorry, now I'm basically seeing that it has duplications, but it doesn't really matter. So you see links object, it has some links which are nothing but URI, which are nothing but endpoints that can help user what to do next with a particular API. For example, this response demonstrate that cat is not adopted, so it is provided an endpoint of adoption, so that if I want to adopt a cat, I can call this endpoint. In real world application, it would be something look like a front end application, where if cat is not adopted, user can click on the button and get the cat adopted and stuff like that. Hypermedia is like the UI built into your JSON. You see, in modern front end applications, there are a couple of buttons where you can click and go on some other pages, or maybe a typical Wikipedia page where there are certain hypermedia, so that you can navigate between different pages in order to grab the information. This is similar to what hypermedia is. It is like a navigation implemented in your JSON response of a particular API. Very simple. Again, I would say it sounds too deep, too technical, but it is actually not. It just says that your API should be hypertext driven, so that user can get benefited from it. Yeah. Okay. I think moving forward, I would say why it matters and why I'm talking about it today. And I'm sure you must not often see so many presentations or resources on the internet regarding this topic, but I picked this topic because I love it, basically, and I love the fact that it helps users in runtime to get the resources. And that's why I think the first important thing why it matters. It's all about discoverability. For example, if I'm using a particular API in runtime and I'm getting some endpoints attached with it, then I will be very happy because I do not need to explore their documentation further in order to get what sort of data I'm getting. And it will even get cherry on the top if it's kind of dynamic, which I'm definitely going to show you in a couple of minutes. The second crucial thing I would say, which makes this hypermedia very important, is it decouples client and server. I mean, according to me, it decouples, but you can definitely debate on that part. For example, client server is one of the constraint of REST API that makes the separation of concern. I would say this also contribute in that direction. For example, I do not need any further information or prerequisite information regarding an API or what is stored in the server or database, because I'm getting all the links in runtime, and I do not care about server or database anymore because I know what is stored already. So I do not need to go to documentation or check the server's documentation independently. So I think it decouples somehow. The third one is, of course, it's hypertext driven, so it acts like a state machine where you can consider each JSON response as the state and each link as the transition medium. So if I want to go from checking the details of cats, if a cat is adopted or not, if not adopted, I can directly take the path of adoption and get the cat and stuff like that. So it acts like in that way as well. Moving forward, I think today 99% of the APIs, not 99%, I think that would be too much, but I would say 80% of the APIs we see in today's world, they are REST-like APIs. They are not purely REST. And that's all because they misses this part, this very teeny tiny constraint of RESTful architecture, which is hypermedia, of course, which we are discussing today. And in my opinion, I researched a bit. I see a couple of white papers. I see a couple of APIs. And I came up with these 4 points that why this is missing in our today's world. Most of the developers consider what CRUD is for databases and what REST is for API. They thought that REST is a medium which I can use in order to kind of manipulate or retrieve the resources from the database through an API call. But I would say that's a misconception. It's not 100% true because REST is simply an architecture which helps other builders to make their API on based off those REST architecture. So it's not 100% same, I would say. The second thing I noticed in the community driven APIs is that these links, they are hard coded, which means, for example, if I'm calling an API or if someone else calling an API, these links will always going to be the same. So they are not dynamic, they are not coming actually according to the user's behavior. So I think most of the API providers skip this part because it's not going to contribute much in the improving the product or improving the API overall, which I would say I kind of agree because it's static, so it doesn't really help much in order to improve the functionality of an API. But that's we are going to overcome shortly. Uh, the third is, of course, developers love documentation driven development. They love to explore things by their own. They go to internet, read a couple of blogs, couple of documentations, or maybe in modern world they go to LLMs and find their answers. So that's why I think developers love to explore by their own. I think that's why they don't like much about getting these links in real time. But I think there's another effect of it. If you're getting a links in runtime, I think your life would be much easier as well in order to grab the information from a particular API. So it's kind of a double sword, I would say. But yeah, it's important. I think there is very very interesting story behind it. A couple of months back, I submitted I basically posted a tweet on internet that says why 99% of the APIs in today's world are REST like, and that thread went viral on Twitter, and that's why I decided to talk about it in this conference today. So what most of the providers think, they simply skip this in order to, for the sake of shipping their APIs faster, which is fine, because it's not something that is going to hinder your deliverability or hinder your functionality of a particular API. So it's fine, but it's just the matter that you are not end up shipping REST API. You're just shipping REST like API or pragmatic REST API. That's the only difference. Which I would say again, fine. It's not that something very harmful or something very very wrong. But yeah, I would say if you're providing links, or if you're building hypermedia driven API, then your users will be more than happy. Yeah. So yeah, I think yeah, enough theory, enough chit chat for now. I think I've been talking a lot. I've been fumbling a lot. So it's actually time to build very quick API and see what this thing looks like in action. So for that, I think I need to go to my VS Code. Yes, over here, most of the time my demo fails, so no guarantee for today as well, but I'll try to build AI-driven HATEOAS engine today. So here I have already set up something. I set up my fake cats database, which is fine. I implemented a couple of properties here, the cat ID, cat name, if a cat is adopted, and their cuteness score. I'm using Express for building that API. I'm going to use OpenAI for AI driven part in it. So I've already configured my API key. Let's go ahead and build a very basic get endpoint to retrieve the information of a particular cat according to the ID. And we all know that how we do that. So I'm going to quickly implement that without errors. I'll try my best. So request dot response, oops, arrow function. You see my AI is suggesting me some code, but I am going to pretend like I don't use AI at all while writing code. So I'm first going to tap into the what ID a user is passing, and then I would say I'll tap into that particular ID. So find that cat for me, which ID should be matching from what user is passing. And here I'm going to say return response dot status to 200 and then send cat. And in case user is passing some wrong ID, so I would say if cat not found, then simply return 404 and say cat not found, which is fine. I think it should work. It should work if I run my server. I'm going to use node, not node mon, so I need to restart my server again and again. But yeah, server is running at port 3000. So now if I try to access 3000 cats and cat ID 123, it worked. We are getting the response from our fake database. Of course, in production, you can get this response from different database schemas and stuff like that. But for now, we are getting our data from fake database. So this is great. We just built one endpoint. We just built one cat API, but you see, it is not returning links, which means that it's not a pure REST API. It's just a pragmatic REST. And in order to make it pure REST, it's just a matter of 2 minutes, I would say. So instead of here sending cat as it is, I will destruct it here. Sorry, I need 3 dots, and then I would add another object over here called links, and I would say adopt, please adopt this cat. Oops, my AI is giving me more code than needed. But yeah, what I did here is I simply destruct cat information, and I just added one extra object called links, which provides the link to. Oops, I'm getting some errors. I'm really sorry about that. So I think I should write it manually somewhere here. Yeah. Okay, now it should work. I need literal string here because I want to pass the actual ID a user is passing, ID, and then adopt. This is the endpoint. I'm again getting some errors. Why? Okay, I think I need one braces over here and one round bracket as well. Great. And now if I kind of stop my server again and rerun it, Now I should get my adoption endpoint as well. So if I go to my browser, hit 123, you see I'm getting my links, which are nothing but the further endpoints a user can use in this endpoint, in this API, sorry. But you see what's the problem here? The problem is this is static. So if a cat is adopted, it will always going to return adopt endpoint, which doesn't really make sense. And there could be thousands of other use cases here. And that's why I think most of the API provider misses this thing, because it's always going to be static. It does not adopt with the user behavior or what sort of endpoints user is accessing more and stuff like that. So it should be dynamic. It should be dynamic according to users behavior, according to the API request, according to what endpoints user is accessing and stuff like that. So we are trying to overcome that part as well over here. So instead of this links hard coded, I will create a function here, get oops, if I can write links, yes, get links from AI, and I'll pass cat here. Okay, and here under AI driven, actually, let's call it fake AI first. Let's not use open AI and simply try to make a fake AI using if-else statement. We all know that AI is if-else statement and under the hood. No, I'm just joking. Okay, get links from fake AI, and here I'll create a links object first. Let's initialize it with an empty object. And here I would say if cat is not adopted, then pass the adoption link, otherwise pass something else, some other endpoint. So my AI is suggesting the code, but I'll try to write it manually. Adopted, if cat is not adopted, yeah, if I can spell it right, then what I need to do, I need to say links.adopt, and here I will pass my literal string first and then cat. Now my AI is not giving me the code when I need it. Yeah, I got it. So, oops, I think I need to remove this thing here. Yeah, if cat is not adopted, then simply give me the adoption endpoint, and if cat is adopted, then give me the sponsor endpoint. So if every cat needs a sponsor, of course. Great. And now if I kind of restart my server again and go back here, sorry, I need to check whether cat123 is adopted or not. No, it's not adopted, so it should give me the adoption link. It's not coming. What is wrong? Get links. Of course, I need to return links here. I'm stupid, I'm sorry. Yeah, so now if I go back, hit refresh, again I'm not getting it because I need to restart my server. That's why I should have used nodemon here, but I'm not using it for some reason. Yeah, so now I'm getting adoption link, adoption endpoint basically, because 123 cat is not adopted, but we know 456 cat, I mean cat with an ID 456 is adopted. So that's why it is giving me the sponsor link instead of adoption. So you see, we made some progress. We built hypertext driven API. Now our hypermedia links are more dynamic, but still they are not coming from AI, sorry, which is the title of my talk. So I'll try to quickly demonstrate what that fields look like basically. So instead of now, I will remove all of this, and I will actually remove fake as well from here. I have well-written prompt already over here. I'm not a prompt engineer, so thanks to my friend who who helped me writing this prompt. And now I would say let's use OpenAI, because most of the developers is using OpenAI. Oh, I don't need to write it because I just copied it. Yeah. Okay, so now my prompt is this. It is very simple. It's saying that these are the allowed endpoints in cat API. I stated some rules that, for example, if cuteness score is lesser than 8, then include feature. If cat is not adopted, then please include adoption link and stuff like that. So it's very simple prompt. Of course, you can be more in depth, more dynamic and stuff like that. But here now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually call OpenAI chat creation function in order to get my links. And a couple of things I need to pass here is, of course, my AI is suggesting me. So the first one is model, which I'm going to use not GTPF, come on, GPT-4, and then I'm going to pass a message which which states role. It should complete. No, why it is not completing? Yeah, role user, and then prompt. And then I think one of the thing I need to pass it over here. I don't want to go to their official documentation, but one of the thing I want to pass here is that what was that? I think it was a role system. Yeah, role system, of course. You're an helpful agent. Great. And one other attribute I want to pass is temperature, which states my AI model that you don't have to be creative much. You need to be inside the limits of what is mentioned in the prompt. So that's why I'm passing temperature to 0, because I just need links, nothing else. And now I tap into the response coming from this OpenAI call. I will actually call it response. And of course, it will pass me multiple choices of responses. So I'm going to get the only first one, and then I'm going to get into the shape which I need. So I need to trim it. So if you ever console.log it out, you will see that it has multiple choices, and I need only first response. Great. I think everything is set, and I just need to now return links, I think. Yeah, it should work. It should work. I'm not 100% sure yet. But let's see. Oh no, I think, yeah, it's actually coming from an actual API call, so I need async. Wait here, if I can do that real quick. And I think I also need to do that here in my endpoint as well. Yeah, now it should work. Let me restart my server again. Yeah, server is running at port 3000. Just ignore this. Just ignore this deprecated warning. I need to fix that. But now if I go over here, 1, 2, 3, finger crossed, should work. Yeah, now you can see this response is actually coming from AI. These specific part over here. I know my cat with ID cat123 is not adopted. That's why it's giving me an adoption endpoint. It's giving me sponsor endpoint. It's giving me features endpoint as well, according to the what all things I have mentioned under my prompt here, which is very long. So you see, we in just 3 steps, I would say in just 10 minutes, we built an API that has first of all hypertext in response. The second thing is that which has more dynamic hypertext, and third one is that these hypertexts are actually coming from an actual AI code, which makes it AI driven HATEOAS. I would say it's not just the end, it's just a beginning, I would say, because this is very, very basic thing how the experience will feel like if a particular API has AI driven hypertext engine in it. And this is actually very easy. This API I built over here, this is very basic because I am not tapping into the user's detail. If you implement this in your production ready APIs, I would recommend you should also tap into users behavior. You can check the role of your users, and according to that you can also be more dynamic and more vast or versatile in your prompt as well, so that you can start adopting hypertext responses according to the users. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for today. Most of the APIs I've worked with, I see they got this thing missing, which I think we try to implement today. It makes our APIs more dynamic, more hypertext driven, which is the original constraint of RESTful architecture. So yeah, with that being said, I would say if that ignites any ideas in your head, you can feel free to reach me out anytime on my email or or through Twitter DMs. I would love to explore further into it. What I'm going to do next, I'm definitely going to research more about this topic and try to build a sort of standardized npm packages, so that if you want to implement that in your API, you don't need to write all of this logic by your own. You can simply use my npm package and get started with it. So yes, with that being said, thanks for being here with me today. Thanks for listening to me. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to reach me out, Asim. Thanks. Bye.